never anticipated this. Let's just put it that way. It wasn't the plan to be a full-time author.
Yeah.
But I love every second of it. As soon as I started doing it, I was like, yes, this is what I need to do. This is it.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Carrington-Russell, Australian award-winning author of Kick Butt Women and Delicious Men in Dark Romantic Worlds. And I have a very special guest for you today. We are talking to an author who loves pushing the boundaries a little, writing quirky romance, and is a massive advocate for the LGBTQ plus community. We are talking to the one and only Nyla K. How are you?
Hi, I'm very excited to be here in beautiful Australia.
I am so excited. So this is one of my first in-person interviews. So thank you. Thank you for inviting me into your space. And we just actually came off the tail end of signing at Babe, which is why you're in Australia. So how are you feeling now?
Well, I'm not gonna lie, I'm glad that it's over just because of the event stress, which is a lot on my anxiety. But the event itself was amazing. I had such a fun time. It was a great time. And I'm just so glad that I got the chance to come down here and do this because this was a bucket list place for sure. And so yeah, I'm like so happy to be here. Babe was amazing.
It's so cool that you could do this. If this was a bucket list place, being able to do this through your books. So I actually want you to take me back to the start then as to what got you into writing and how you found publishing for the first time.
Yeah, so that's an interesting story. So I have always loved to write. I have always been more skilled in words and writing and reading and that type of stuff than say like the sciences, the maths and the things like that. So I always knew that I would want to do something in that area, but I never saw myself writing fiction. I used to write, actually I did write one in sync fanfic when I was like 13 and I forgot about it and I found it like a few years ago, like, handwritten pages. It was hilarious. I was like, oh my God, it's my first romance. I didn't even remember I did it, but I was always very like, I really liked the editing process. Like I was always the one who wanted to help the teachers like correct the essays and stuff like in class. I loved doing it. So, but I really liked writing like I used to write opinion pieces for my local newspaper. Like I wanted to be Carrie Bradshaw from Sex and the City. Like that was the dream. It was like, I want to write for a magazine, I want to write, and I wrote for that newspaper. And then I also wrote for my, college, my university newspaper as well. So it was always more like, opinion stuff, like things like that. I actually went to school for journalism as well. So that was like where I was headed towards, and that's kind of what I wanted to do. But then when I graduated college, everything was making the shift to online, and there were just not any jobs. Like it wasn't a thing. You didn't come out of college and just get like some, job at Vogue or something like that. Like it just didn't happen. So I had to spend my time, doing other things. I worked in like corporate Mercedes-Benz for a while, which was an amazing job. And so that actually brought me to New York City from my small town in Massachusetts. I moved to New York City to work for the Mercedes-Benz corporate headquarters that's there in Manhattan. And so all of a sudden I was here living in the city, and I lived in Brooklyn and worked in the city. And so I was taking the train every day. And so I had all this extra time on my hands, like all this, it was like maybe an hour to 2 hours extra every day where I'm not driving, I'm like sitting on a train. So I started reading like so much more. I hadn't read anything in like a while. I used to be a voracious reader when I was a kid, but it had been a while. So I started getting like, I really love like suspense, like Gone Girl and like Big Little Lies. Like that was always really my jam. And so, but that took me like into the romance like sphere. Cause like once I was like, reading that stuff, and it just kind of guided me into romance a little. And I was like, ooh, okay, like what's this? And I remembered that I had read a romance book when I was younger, and I really enjoyed it. So I was like, okay, like I remember liking this. So I started getting super into reading romance, and I'm sitting on the train every day, and I'm like, you know what? Like I have all these ideas, like all these like ideas. I used to just like sometimes even sit on the train and just like daydream like about
Mm.
like ideas for like stories, like characters and stuff. And so I was like, I could do that. Like I could write something. But like I just wanted to write it for me. Like I had no intention of publishing anything. I didn't even know that you could self-publish. I didn't know that was a thing. I thought you still had to like query to like a publishing house. Like I had no idea. So I was like, but I want to write these stories for me. And so my first book that I wrote, I actually wrote it for, I want to say like a year or something at
Okay.
least. Like I would write it and then I would go through and I would read it and change it and like just, because it was just fun. It was something I was just doing for fun. And I am a huge fan and also was a huge fan of The Walking Dead. So it kind of started as like Walking Dead fan fiction a little bit, only it wasn't about like the story of The Walking Dead. It was about like the actors. So I like wrote this like celebrity romance like thing that was like, using pieces of like these actors and like what it's like to be like, a TV star or something, like doing this whole thing. And it was really fun, but I had zero intention of doing anything with it. Like it was just for me. And then one of my friends at my job at Mercedes was like, "You know that you can like publish a book
Mm.
yourself, right? Like it's very easy. You literally just go onto Amazon and just like put it up there and then it's for sale." And I was like, "Really?" And I like looked into it and it was that easy. Like it was literally like make a, Kindle Direct Publishing profile, like get a cover. I actually had a cover made. I didn't even just like make one myself. There was like this girl that I knew who did it and I still like it. I think it's beautiful. Um, but I was like, boop, there's a book.
Yeah.
Like, no idea. Like, didn't know anything. Didn't know, wasn't in any of the communities. Like, my first few sales, like, probably for the first like year or so, were like my family and friends. Like, it
Yeah.
was just, I didn't know anything about it. I was just doing it for fun. And so I wrote like that trilogy of like, that couple and everything. And I was just doing it for fun. And then I got so into it and there were so many more like story ideas that were coming up. Like, so the next thing that I like decided I was going to write was Push, which is one of my books that is about a married couple that has an affair with their daughter's boyfriend. So like the daughter the daughter brings home the like her boyfriend for Thanksgiving and like the boyfriend ends up having an affair with like the dad and then the mom gets like involved later. So it's like this story that I had in mind. I was like, I had to write this. And that was like the first time that I was like, I'm going to see what this is all about. Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to like be on Instagram. I'm going to, like check out the accounts and like see
Mm.
what this Bookstagram thing is about. So, but even then, I was like still I think every step of the way that I've done with this, it's been like a learn as you go thing.
Yeah.
Like I'm very much a learn as you go person. So I was like, it's been a slow build for me. So I guess that was like I first started publishing in 2018 and everything, it's been very much like just a slow, like a gradual. I
Yeah.
never had like one of those like boom viral moments. Everything has been like a slow climb, but I actually really like it that way.
Yeah.
I feel like it's been at this point, I have a very solid like group of readers, like, fans of my work who are like very dedicated to it. Um, but yeah, it was different. It was like, and I don't know how I decided to make that shift from because those books were the last MF books that I wrote, the last male female like straight romance books that I wrote. And then as soon as I wrote Push, I was just going full speed ahead on the queer romance train, like everything at that point. I have another MF book that I wrote, but even then it's like, bisexual characters and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't know like why it went in that direction or why I suddenly decided, but it was as if like all of a sudden all of the characters that were coming to me like were gay. So I was like, okay, cool. I guess this is what we're doing. And I never looked back and now I'm just like so excited about it.
Yeah.
It's yeah, it's been fun. But yeah, it was an interesting, I never anticipated this. Let's just put it that
Yeah.
way. It wasn't the plan to be a full-time author,
Yeah.
but I love every second of it. As soon as I started doing it, I was like, yes, this is what I need to do. This is it.
I kind of love this though too, because I feel like you get to a point when you're writing, you're dabbling in things, and then there's just somewhere or a particular genre that you really hit your stride in, or
Hmm.
it just feels so right. It feels like everything clicks into place. And I feel like
Yes.
that's very much what you were describing.
Hmm.
One thing that I really appreciate about you as an author is you definitely write some challenging genres, like
Hmm.
especially delving into taboo, for example. A lot of authors are very scared to do that
Hmm.
because it can be inclined more to consequence, I guess, or
Hmm.
negative impact
Yeah,
than other genres. So
it's true.
I want to talk about it a little bit because there must be something very delicious in it. And so
Yeah.
I wanna know where your comfort level is at. Like, why were you nervous when you decided to publish your first taboo one, and some of the impacts that it's had on your career? Like, I know, for example, Double Edged
Hmm.
was your recent release, and that was banned from Amazon. So the
Yep.
situation around that and how to manage it, advice you have for authors who may get banned from Amazon or whatever it may be. I would very much love to talk
Hmm.
about taboo genre.
Oh yeah, definitely. So I think also like so what I was saying, that book Push that I released, it was, it was my first LGBTQ romance, and that was about 5 years ago. So and that is taboo. It's not as taboo as say Double Edged, which is, has twincest, as we would call it, as like one of the main factors. But it's still taboo because it's like an older married couple, it's age gap, it's like the daughter's boyfriend, like, there's cheating, obviously, like it's got a lot of taboo factors in it. So I think having come kind of out the gate with that,
Yeah.
I got, I like, I kind of got my dipped my toes into what it's like to receive not so happy feedback about stuff like that early. So I developed my thick skin early. That's what I
Yeah.
usually like to say, is because with Push, I mean, and also the thing that's crazy is that people were more upset about the cheating in that
Mm.
book than they were about the taboo factors or anything else that really happened. And so, like, yeah, that was my first experience with, but the MF books that I had published previously, my first series had cheating in it. So like for me, I've always enjoyed writing cheating romance. I mean, it's very like raw and complicated and messy, and but it's a hard limit for a lot of people. Like they just will not read cheating in romance. They'll read like murder over
Yeah.
cheating. And I'm like, I mean, for me it's like, yeah, it hurts, but I like that. Like I
Yeah.
like I like to feel the pain while reading something.
Yeah.
I like for it to be like, oh, gut punch, and then you come out of it victoriously, like that rise above thing is like very significant. So, but yeah, I got my thick skin out of the way early, which was kind of good. And it wasn't anything like with Double Edged. It was, that was a whole other thing. Um but yeah, I was like, okay, so you don't look at reviews. Like that's thing number one. Like I learned that right away. I was like, we don't look at reviews anymore. We don't like pay attention to negative comments or people who are not interested in people who are like, who are going to read the book and be like, this isn't for me. I hate it. It's trash, whatever. Like that doesn't sway me because I'm just still going to write what I want to write because that's the freedom that I have. Like, I want to put out complicated, messy, like boundary pushing stories. Like it's just for some reason that it really calls to me to write like these complicated things. And so yeah, with Double Edged is it's a male. So it's like a polyamorous gay romance story about twin brothers and then their stepdad who like gets involved. So that's obviously very taboo. I went into that, first of all, what the whole original idea for Double Edged, it was supposed to be a short story and an anthology that was going to be coming out. So I didn't know how the anthology would have fared because it never ended up happening, I don't think. So I think like the anthology fell through or something, but I was like, good, because I want to turn, as soon as I started writing it, I was like, this needs to be a full book. This is going to be a novel. It's going to be very involved because it's like when I write these taboo stories, like I don't usually consider myself like a taboo author. I don't really consider myself like an any type of author. I like to just write whatever comes to me. Um, and so when I write these taboo stories, I'm not just doing it like just for the sake of having taboo.
Yeah.
which it's like no shade on anyone who does that. If you want to just write taboo just because it's fun and quick and sexy and you want to like put that out there, like that's great. There is an audience for it. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing that I found out is that it's not, maybe the people who are opposed to it might have louder voices, but there is an audience for taboo romance, for extremely taboo romance. It's not going to be on Amazon
Yeah.
because that's just not going to happen. I mean, there are some that sneak by, but I went into publishing Double Edged knowing full well that it was going to be banned. I could have probably just not even bothered with Amazon, but I was like, I mean, let's see what happens. I didn't have a pre-order on it because I felt like that would be opening me up to something. I was like, I'm going to drop this as a live release and just see how long it goes. And then if something happens, then it'll be available on my website and it'll be available on some of these other avenues like Eden Books and stuff like that. And it was on Amazon for I think about 3 days before it was banned. So it was very fast, and there's no real way to know because when Amazon bans something, they don't tell you why. They just say that it violated something. It's like very vague. Um, and so there are ways, of course, to like reach out to them and, make changes. I've seen authors make changes to their books to get them back up and stuff like that. But for me, that wasn't a possibility. This is a story that can't be changed. So I was like, I don't care that it was banned because I kind of knew it was going to happen. So I just went full force. That's like what got my website up and running and everything. It's like my whole website, everything that I had been working on was all dedicated to this. And to this day, it's been one of my most successful books. And it's not even on Amazon, which is kind of crazy. But it's yeah, because it's just very like it's an extremely emotional story too. Like it's like I was saying, it's not just like, people will be like, oh, hot, spicy, taboo romance. Like it does have that, but it's also extremely like painful at times. There's like a lot of like there's mental health issues. There's like all kinds of dynamics and stuff that they have to overcome, which is it was it was amazing. But I still love that book so much, and I mean it has an audiobook now. I did an audiobook for it, duet narration. It's fucking amazing. I was listening to it last night. I listened to it constantly. It's like so good. So it was like all these things that like, when it happened, and there's of course going to be some kind of uproar because, unfortunately a lot of people don't like to just let something slide.
Yeah.
Like some of us are like, okay, if I see something that I don't like, I'm just going to turn away from it. Like I'm just not gonna read it, like, or not gonna watch it, or I'm not gonna involve myself with it. But some people don't like to do that. They feel like they need to be, the moral police of what's going on, which it's like, so when you talk about banned books, like there are a lot of books that are banned that makes no sense for them to be banned, like, To Kill a Mockingbird and stuff like that. Like, why? But I don't think that any book should be banned because at the end of the day, if it's fiction, I mean, it would be one thing if it wasn't fiction. I don't think any fictional book should be banned. Let me change it to that because it's like, if there was some kind of creepy, like weird nonfiction thing going on that's like not good. But in a fictional book in a fictional world, like, I mean, it's like you've seen there are movies about like murder and serial killers and all this crazy stuff. Like it's an escape for people. It's entertainment, whether some people like it or not. And again, like sometimes, people look at it and see where they're like, oh, Nyla K writes this taboo stuff. Like she's a banned author. And I'm like, well, that's not all I write. I write all kinds of stuff. I write stuff that's more contemporary. And then I write this like darker stuff. And then I write like so I like to do a lot of different things. But I think also if you are an author who is interested in writing taboo, don't be afraid to write it. Yeah. Because like I said, there's going to be, yes, there will be, I mean, make sure that your skin is thick because you're going to need that. But there's also a huge market for it. And also if you do have a book that's banned, just having the words banned book is a giant marketing tool. That's what I've come to realize too, is that a lot of people will buy books just because they're banned, because they want to support that. They don't think that books should be banned. So they're like, oh, banned books, say less. And they just like get it. So that's something that also happens. So there are ways around it. And in this day and age too, I mean, I know we feel like Amazon is the end all be all, and a lot of us like, we're like trapped with Amazon. We're stuck like, dealing with their ways. But direct sales are really coming up. Like it's becoming a thing for authors. So yeah, I don't think that that anyone should be afraid of doing something that they want to do and that they believe in,
Yeah.
just because they feel like either it's going to get banned or there's going to be like, negative opinions on it or something like that. I definitely don't let that stuff influence me. So I recommend that you don't let that stuff influence you, but everyone's different. So it might be harder for some to deal with like those types of criticisms.
There's a couple of things I want to touch on with this. One will be mental health shortly, but I want to go to worst case scenario when you do have a banned book or when you do have that negativity impacting you. I know that you have experienced a little bit of cancel culture, which is unfortunately becoming more apparent as the years go by.
Mm-hmm.
So are you able to, where you're comfortable, explain that situation to me and how you dealt with it, especially mentally as well?
Yeah, so I mean that was a difficult thing. It all, it started with Double Edge. It started with the book, being controversial and having this controversial subject matter. But the unfortunate thing that seems to happen these days on social media, in places like TikTok and stuff like that, is that um readers have maybe realized that sharing hot takes and spilling tea videos often get them more engagement than just being positive about certain things. So that becomes an entire thing where it's like, oh, I realize that if I make a negative video about Nyla K's banned book, that gets me double, triple, quadruple the likes and comments and engagement that I'm getting on my other videos. So that became a thing. And then also, it has a way of kind of just spiraling where, if people will be outraged about one thing and now all of a sudden they're looking at you as a person instead of the book. And a lot of people haven't even read the book too. So then there'll be that whole like, mass
Stigmatization.
yeah, exactly. Where it's like no one's even read it, but they're seeing, oh, so and so said that these characters are, or this older man's having relations with these characters when they're 15. That literally doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So it's like, but they'll be like just taking something that someone said and then it gets twisted like this crazy game of telephone. And now, like I said, also they're looking at you personally. They're picking apart all these things that you may have said in the past or things that like, have come up. And it really just has a way of like just snowballing into this crazy thing. And really the only thing you can do at that point is step away.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. I was like, because there was, I mean, part of you like you're defending your art. Like these are I consider my characters my babies. Like it's like I'm defending my children. Like, so I'm like, I don't want to take that line down. Like, at first you want to fight. You're like, no, this isn't correct. You're spreading misinformation. This is not a good thing. It's not a good thing to be, spreading lies and falsehoods as if it's true, because that's just not right. If you want to trash the book for what it is, go for it. But don't like, take things out of context and, do all it just to like get some engagement and, try to put me out like I did something wrong. I wrote a fictional book, man. Like I mean, it ain't real. Like I'm not endorsing this stuff in real life.
Yeah.
Like this is fiction. So, but yeah, after a certain point, I was like, I have to just step away. So I stepped away. I think I remember I took a break from all social media for I want to say at least a month. I think it was like a month off of all socials. And then I slowly came back to Instagram and like, Facebook or something like that. But I steered clear of TikTok and I still steer clear of TikTok because I just found that for my own mental health and for, if I had any hope of writing again, that there was just no way. There's no way I can be immersed in so much negativity, even if it's whether it's about me or whether it's about others. Like, I mean, you're seeing this stuff and it's really affecting you. I found that I might talk about it later or something, but I've been on a pretty serious burnout for the last, I want to say almost two, maybe year and a half or something. I've been on a serious burnout. And so, like, I have to protect my mental health at all costs if I ever want to write and, publish a book again. And so I noticed that even when, like, and so the whole double-edged thing, that was a couple of years ago. It's gotten worse now with like, on social media with these negative, like, it seems like there's something new popping up every day. There's always some new drama that's popping up. And, and then what happens too is that everybody has to share their opinion on it. Like, so I found that I would go on, like, Facebook or go on somewhere, and it was everybody I knew echoing the same thing over and over again. Like, this is, now it's like if it was outrage about AI or something like that, it's like everyone's saying the same thing. And I'm like, I agree with you, but I just can't even stand seeing this repeatedly, like so much. Like it's just it really affects me. And so I was like, I have stepped back a lot from social media from what I used to do, which is unfortunate because I feel like I built a lot of my brand as an indie by like being accessible to like my readers and stuff like that. But it's not worth it. I think that at the end of the day, my readers are going to want me to like be able to write and publish above all else, like, but that's also why I started my Patreon too, because Patreon was a really good option for me to say, hey, I can't be on Instagram as much. I can't be like, in all these different places as much as I was, but now I can be here on Patreon. Like I have a Discord and stuff like that. So like if you are like a Nyla K fan, you can have access to me, but it doesn't like put me out as much as trying to be everywhere all the time. Because being an indie author is hard. I mean, you're wearing like 10 different hats. Like you have so many different jobs. And so if burnout is something that you're struggling with, I think probably the first thing to do would be step away from social media.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be the number one thing that's going to affect most of us.
Yeah. And I imagine too, coming off that as well, having that experience and then making sure that your mental health is in the right place. Mm-hmm. And then also realizing that burnout can be longer than just a month or two of recovery.
Oh, yeah.
And I wonder how your self-criticism was or how your self-talk was in this period, because as authors we write, and if we're not publishing, we feel like we're not being relevant, and we feel like we're letting ourselves down, we feel like we're letting readers down, but we have no choice but to take that time and space. So what were some of the conversations that you had to have with yourself to make sure that it was okay and you actually spent that time on nurturing yourself so that you could fill up your creative well again?
Yeah, I will say that for me, it was and still is the most difficult part of any sort of burnout, any sort of writer's block is, and I know I'm not alone, but I'm extremely hard on myself. Like I am my own worst critic. I'm my own worst enemy when it comes to, I'm pretty much like, I'm like a showbiz dad to myself. Like I'm literally like, I will not let myself like have a break. Like it's just, I also write a lot. Like my books are very thick. So like releasing, 3 or 4 books a year at 180,000 words, 200,000 words, like that's a lot. I used to write a lot and I used to write fast and it worked for me until it didn't. Until like I was like, okay, I'm burnt out.
Yeah.
Like I can't do this anymore. And it's almost like everything comes together in like this perfect storm of chaos because you always have some personal life thing going on at that time too. So it's like a personal life thing. And now I can't write. The motivation isn't there. Like all this stuff is going on. And so like literally the worst thing that you can do at that time is be on social media because you're seeing everybody else releasing stuff and you're not. So it's like the worst feeling and it's really hard to overcome. And that's another reason why I've stepped away in the last couple of years and been much less present than I used to be, because it's just like if I have any hope of getting out of this burnout, I can't play the compare game. And the
Yeah.
compare game is like the hardest part of being an author, or especially an indie author, because it's like you just, all you see is what everybody else is doing. And like, I mean, social media puts everything through a lens. So it's like,
Yeah.
it's not what's actually happening. Like that person might have had a mental breakdown before they released their 5 books this year. Like, I mean, they might be crumbling. Like maybe their marriage fell apart or something. Like you don't know any of this, but all we're seeing is this stuff that is being shown to us constantly. And like force fed to us, like as if this is what we should be doing.
Yeah.
So you look at it and you're like, that's what I should be doing. I should be, posting constant teasers for this book, even though I'm like 3 chapters into it and I have no idea when it's going to come out. Like that's something that I used to struggle with too, because it's like, as an indie, you don't have anything, you don't have people. I mean, you might have a team or something like that, but like a lot of times you don't have like a marketing like team or something telling you what to do,
Yeah.
or like it's not like in the trad world where like they're doing everything for you and you just sit back and write. Like, you have to do all of this. So like, oh, well, I'm writing this new story. I know everyone's going to be really excited about it. So let me share a bunch of stuff. And then you get writer's block and you can't write. And the thing doesn't come out for like a year. It's been like a year and everyone's like, where's this? Where's this book? Like, I thought you said you were going to do this, like, blah, blah, blah. And that starts to get to you.
Yeah.
And it's not the reader's fault because they're just excited.
Yeah.
Like you can't fault them for being excited about it. But at the same time, like that was something that was huge for me too, is like it wasn't even just me, it was like the reader's excitement too, being like, when's the next book coming out? I have a series that is unfinished that I'm like trying to struggling like hell to work on and get finished. And it's like every time I see one of those messages where it's like, is this like, is book 5 coming out? Like, did you discontinue the series? I'm like, I didn't discontinue the series, but I physically can't even, like, I have to just give myself like a break. I have to do it on my own time. I have to. And so like part of me is always like, you should be writing. You should be writing. You should be writing. You like, that's why I haven't read a book that, I mean, a romance book. Like sometimes I read like true crime or something like that, but I haven't read a romance book in like years.
Yeah.
I want to say 2.5 years or something. Every time I tried to start one, I would be like, you should be like, what are you doing? Like, why are you reading? Like, you should be writing. It was always just, you should be writing. And that's like, it like sucks because then the last thing you want to do is hate what you love. You don't want to make yourself hate the thing that is like your artistry and like your creativity and stuff. But it's very difficult. It's a very difficult thing to get past. So when it comes to burnout, like my number one piece of advice for anyone is just don't stop writing, because the worst mistake that I made was saying, okay, well, I need to give myself a break. But then the break went on too long. And then if it goes on too long, then unfortunately it's really hard to get back into it. The hardest thing was trying to get myself back into the routine of sitting down and writing. Like it was like I physically couldn't make myself sit down and write. Like the idea of even just getting my laptop out and sitting down and actually writing something, like it just made me feel like terrible. And so I was like, but the ideas are there. Like I have so many ideas, so many characters, all these different things. I probably have like 25 different story ideas. And so that's an even worse feeling because you're like, oh my God, like by the time I get to this story that I want to do, it's going to be like 2050, like I'm going to be like in my grave, like trying to, release all these things. So yeah, it's extremely difficult. So I would say that's definitely the biggest piece of advice is don't take a break, give yourself a break, but try to still write in between. Like if I could go back, I would have kept writing. Like I would have, even if it's like 100 words a day, even if you feel like it sucks, even if you don't even know what you're writing for and it just doesn't make any sense, like try to keep your routine, especially too, because a lot of us, like, if we're full-time authors, like we work from home, so we're self-employed, we work from home, we're our own bosses. So like keeping a routine and a schedule and like something like that is, I feel like, very important. And that's what I didn't have because I had too much other stuff going on and I couldn't, there was too many distractions. And so like I lost it. And I went, there were times when I went maybe like, a month, 6 weeks without writing. And then trying to get back into it is like really hard at that point.
I want to
So,
I want to thank you for being so honest
mhm.
and transparent because I think more people need to hear this side of it,
Yeah.
just for the fact that it is hard and it can be isolating. And especially, as you said, when you're comparing with other authors,
Mhm.
we don't know what, as you said, what they're experiencing at that time as well. And
Mhm.
it's like this is relatable to so many people. I've had this conversation outside of interviews with so many people, but also it's scary to be this vulnerable
Mhm.
because you want to look like you have your shit together.
Oh
You
yeah.
want to look like a boss babe or whatever it may be, but this is the reality of it too, is because when a lot of us go into this, we don't necessarily have business backgrounds.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily know what's the most optimal time management
Mhm.
for us. And it's also hard being a creative because not only are you the one producing the books, but you're doing
Yeah.
all of the marketing and all of these things that you're learning at the same time. And I
Mhm.
find that it's usually around, I want to say, after the 2 year mark, and this is just theoretically, but I find a lot of authors are going crazy. They're writing, it's
Mhm.
fun, you're writing these books, and then
Mhm.
after about the 2 year mark, it's when their pace starts slowing down
Yep.
and they're struggling to keep with that pace because then they're doing more on the socials or they're doing more of the business, and then they're beating themselves up and saying, why aren't I releasing as many books? And then
Mhm.
ever so slightly, you've got another year to 2 years, and then they're in that burnout phase. Like, this is my just after a
Yeah.
couple of interviews on here, I'm
That's
like, I
true.
see a pattern here. And
Mhm.
so, and I think it's really sad. Like, if we can address it a little bit sooner, it might prevent that because, in my opinion, I
Mhm.
actually feel like burnout's almost like a trauma that we hold in our
Yeah.
body. And I know this sounds like really extreme, but this can be extreme, guys. Like when you have that type of burnout, writing then becomes a pain point for you. And
Yeah.
as you said, just sitting down on the laptop and
Mhm.
writing, your body's going, no, 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 because it remembers what it felt like at the end of the
Yeah.
last book that you were doing that for. And
Mhm.
again, I'm obviously no psychologist or anything. This is just like what I've experienced and what I've heard and my opinion. But
Mhm.
I want to really discuss, like, and I love that piece of advice. I think that remaining consistent
Mhm.
will help. What are some of the things that you've delegated that have helped you personally?
Yeah, so that was another thing that was really hard for me because I'm a massive control freak, like I'm sure a lot of us are. And giving up control of things, like a lot of us are indies for a reason because we like to control everything. Like if you're like me and you have chosen to be an indie and you've never queried to like, any trad publishing houses and you've never, that like wasn't part of your dream is to like, okay, I love being an indie, then like it's extremely difficult to give up that control. So like for me, the thing that's good is that I am terrible at I'm not a graphic design person at all. So I have never been the person who does my own covers, does my own formatting. Like I don't understand how some authors do it. Like if you make your own covers, like I have author friends who make their own covers, do all their own. I'm like, I don't like, and you're writing and publishing books, and I'm not doing those things, and I'm struggling. So I
Yeah.
don't understand how you do that. I'm also childless, so I'm childless by choice,
Yeah.
but I also don't have kids. So I also don't understand how some of these authors have children and families that they have to pay attention to. All I have is a partner. He's very needy, but like still, I'm like, I don't get how some people do it. So for me, like that right off the bat, I was like, okay, like, I always have to have people making my stuff for me, which is good because that saves me time. Like if you're like a hardcore graphic design person and you love doing your own
Yeah.
covers and stuff, then obviously you're not going to delegate that. But like, there are tons of incredible designers out there, especially for indie authors, like when it comes to cover design and stuff like
Mhm.
that and formatting. Like, if you don't have time to do it, or say like maybe you're like, hey, I need some extra time, fucking hire someone. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? There's tons of great artists out there. But also something that I did was I finally was able to relinquish social media control. It took me years to get there, but I finally have somebody, well, at least I had somebody managing my TikTok for me because after my drama, I had no interest in going on TikTok. So I've had someone managing my TikTok for me for years, and that was very helpful. But also I didn't find that like I'm not, a big TikTok person who's like, concerned with going viral and all these things. Um, the assistance in my career that I've had on TikTok has fortunately not been things that I have done. It's been things that other people have done.
Okay.
So it's like, if somebody else put out a video that went viral or something about one of my books, like that's amazing. Like it wasn't me. Like fortunately I didn't have to worry about that. But that's a huge thing because from what I understand, being on TikTok all the time is extremely time consuming, making all these videos. Actually, I did used to do it before like everything happened. I used to be on TikTok and I used to make some videos. It took a long time.
Yeah.
And you have to be like extremely active. And it's kind of like that with most social media. And there's so many different ones. Like there are Facebook, Instagram, like, Twitter or whatever is replacing Twitter nowadays, and like all these different like places, and they want you to have a Patreon, a Discord, a this, a that. And like it's like newsletters too.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So I also delegated my newsletter because I literally used to release like one newsletter a year because I couldn't. Like
Yeah.
I just didn't have time. I'd be like, I would try to release one when something was happening, but like if I'm on burnout and I'm not like publishing anything, like then there's no reason for me to like do it. And so I finally like delegated that to my like team. So newsletter, and social media. I still try to like go on socials a little bit as myself if I can. But like the just like posting random stuff to stay like, to stay engaging and stay like present or whatever. Like having someone do that for me has been like a huge game changer.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, which I always forget about, but so if you are someone who does any type of direct sale or like any type of like, selling physical books on like a website, signed books, stuff like that. Oh my God, having somebody handle that for me was like the biggest change ever. Like that became so stressful to me. Like the whole, wrapping and packing or signing books, packing orders, shipping stuff out. Like, that is that's a full-time job.
Yeah.
That is like a full-time job, like a serious one. Like
Yeah.
that's a 40-hour a week full-time job.
Yeah.
Not to mention that you also have to be doing all this marketing stuff, and you also have to be writing, and your writing has to be good and coherent and stuff. Like it was crazy. So fortunately I have people in my team that now handle like all the website stuff for me because oh my God, like that would have been, it was too much. And even like when like I was still doing it myself, it was too much. I think that's probably part of what contributed to my burnout as well.
Yeah.
Because it was doing all of that stuff. 2023 was like a crazy year for me. Like I released like one of my books that's like been the most successful. And so like riding the tail end of that, and then also like doing the website stuff, like doing the online stuff, like it was just very crazy. Doing events at the same time, like all this, like it was a lot. So yeah, I would recommend like the thing is, and this is the thing about delegating things too, like to your team. If you have like a team, like a PA or like a couple PAs that handle different things, when you're gonna have PAs, recognize everybody's strengths.
Yeah.
Don't expect one person to be able to do everything and to do it the same way that you would, because that's not fair.
Yeah.
And yeah, like find people for different things. If like, so my one PA that I have, like who handles a lot of my website orders and stuff like that, like she doesn't do newsletters. Like she doesn't do graphic stuff. She doesn't know how to do that. She's like, but she was clear from the start and was like, this isn't my strong suit. And I was like, okay, cool. So I found someone who did have that as a strong suit. And like, and then also don't be afraid to like guide them into things. Like if something's not being done right, like it's not the end of the world. Just be like, okay, we're gonna learn as we go.
Yeah.
Like I'm very much a learn as you go type person, which can be good and bad. But yeah, if you learn as you go and like, teach people in your team how you want things to be done, then you can finally cut that cord and be like, okay, like this is a huge weight off my shoulders. Now I don't have to, I still am like, there's still a few things where I'm like, I should be delegating this. I feel like it's always going to happen, but yeah, we need to like be better at that.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
What is the one, or should I say the biggest piece of advice, if you could go back to baby author you,
Mhm.
what would be the one piece of advice you would give to yourself that you now know?
I think actually it segues perfectly from that is that jumping in, like learning as you go, jumping in with both feet is great.
Yeah.
But if I could go back in time, there are so many things I would have saved myself so much time
Mhm.
and probably money and like all this stuff if I had just done a little bit more research
Yeah.
into certain things. If I had just like, it's for some reason I have this thing where it's like I can't research stuff ahead of time. I have to just do it. And then I'm like, oh shit, like, I just jumped into the shallow end and broke my neck. Like maybe I shouldn't have done that. It's like, but if I had looked first and saw that that was a shallow end, maybe I wouldn't have jumped in like that. It's like, um, I mean, we're always going to learn as we go in this industry. We always are. Like, it's just as an indie author, you're just always going to, it's just something that's going to happen. You're going to make mistakes and you're going to be like, okay, I'm not going to do that next time. But some of it can be avoided.
Yeah.
And I think that's why stuff like this is very important because, like, when I was starting, like, when we were starting, there wasn't a lot of that information out there. Like, you really didn't know, like, being an indie author was kind of like just the wild, wild west. Like, you didn't know what was happening. And now everything is like so different. There's so much more information out there. A lot of us have been doing this for a while. So we're like, okay, this is like how it works. There's a lot more like information on how to be an indie. And it's like that you should know a lot of the stuff. Like I have indie authors ask me questions all the time about stuff that like, and I'm like, I only know this stuff because of experience.
Yeah.
Like I didn't find it out from, there's no like manual or anything. Like it's really difficult. But so I would definitely tell my past self and anyone who's like aspiring, like don't be afraid to reach out to people. I know not everybody is nice. I've come across that, like, where like
Yeah, you can
sometimes,
ask us.
sometimes you reach out to someone and they don't want to give you advice and it sucks, but that's also a lesson to be learned. So that's cool. But like, I'm always here. There's a lot of like, you're always here. Like, you do this. This is amazing. Like, there are a lot of also really helpful groups on Facebook for authors and stuff, and like where you can ask questions and like see what other people are doing. Like if I had done some of that back in the day, I wouldn't have made probably a few mistakes. So yeah, it's like it's crazy. It's a crazy profession that we do. But also I just want to say too, because you were mentioning like how that like timeline of burnout and stuff like that, how you think I think that that's very accurate. But I will say that it's not always necessarily a bad thing to because this is advice I used to give people too, is when you're just starting out, it's not a bad thing to go at this pace. Like I kind of also wish I had gone a little faster in my earlier days and put more out because building a solid back catalog then means that if you do hit a burnout, you can survive.
Yeah.
Because that's basically what happened to me is, and I kind of wish I had had more books out or at least like finished a series or something. But like, thankfully, and like thanking like, the publishing gods that I was able to like still survive, like, and support myself and stuff, having not released a book in like over a year or something.
Yeah.
So like it is a good thing to like release a lot in the start, but like you just have to, it's like a fine line that you have to balance to like make sure that you're doing that. And that's why I would say maybe hire people early on.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I know it sucks, like, have to pay people, but it might save you in the long run because that way you can pump out more books early, build your back catalog, and have people doing your socials and stuff for you so you don't have to be worrying about it. And maybe it'll stop you from hitting that burnout as hard, Yeah. So, but yeah, there's definitely seek advice. You don't have to be doing it alone. I know a lot of us feel like we're doing this alone, which sometimes, I mean, sometimes we are, but try to find your tribe. It doesn't have to be a big tribe.
Yeah.
It could be like I think maybe, 2 or 3 people that are like my fam, and find support and stuff like that, because doing it alone is going to be very difficult.
Yeah.
And isolating, and that's going to make things like burnout feel a lot worse.
Absolutely.
Than they have to. So
we've been talking a lot about today as well, mental health, and it is
Mhm.
something that we're both very passionate about. And one thing that I love too, if you are experiencing anything or if you are connecting or resonating with anything that we've discussed as well, there are some phenomenal hotlines and resources on Nyla's
Mhm.
website as well, which actually is very telling for you that you're using your platform to advocate for that too. So definitely
Mhm.
check those out. But if you are struggling in any way, do reach out. Like we're both open,
Mhm.
depending if like when we
Yeah.
travel, it's a little bit harder for the DMs, but we've all been there at one point or another, so you're not alone. So make sure you're definitely seeking help for it, or
Yeah.
you've got somebody to talk to about it. And yeah, we're here for you. Again,
Mhm.
thank you so much for coming on and thank you for having
Yeah.
me in your beautiful space. And yeah, we'll watch this space. Who knows, in a couple of years we might get you back on.
Yeah, I know. I mean, this has been so fun. I'm so glad that I could do this here, like in Australia, like be doing this with you. It's just very exciting. So thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
All right, guys, until next episode. Bye.
Bye.